Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am that NEMT girl and I am back with another video. Today's video is going to be a little different. We're going to do a two-part series on this topic, and this topic is going to cover how to market for private pay clients. Now, in the first part of this two-part series, I'm going to discuss how to create your marketing binder, how to go about cold callings, some of the do's and don'ts, and a few other topics. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's go. Alright, so as I mentioned, this is going to be a two-part series video. The first half of this video is going to be how to prepare your marketing binder, how to do your cold calls, and then the second part is how to prepare your presentation or prepare for your one-on-one meeting with the executive director or the person in charge of the facility. So typically when I am recording these videos for you all, I am at home where a lot of my other things that are not in the office here with me are located, and so the marketing binder is one of those things. So I'm just going to discuss some of the things that you all should definitely have in your marketing binder. I wish I had mine to show you, but unfortunately I don't, but that's okay. We're going to go right into it. Starting off, you definitely want to make sure you have your business license included in your marketing binder. You also want to make sure you have your business registration or your articles of incorporation. You also want to make sure you have your certificate of insurance. Now, these three things are really important to make sure that you have and that you keep updated in the binder at all times, because this is what legitimizes your business as being a real business, right? So you want to show that off to whoever you're trying to sell it to so that they know your business is legit. You also want to make sure it contains your rate sheet. Now, you may have to tailor your rate sheet just a little bit depending on what the facility is or what the job entails, but if that is the case, make sure that's updated as well so that it is tailored for that facility that you're approaching at that time. You also want to make sure you include some pictures of your vehicles so they can see the type of equipment that your company carries. Any company background that you can include is definitely a great selling point as well, especially if it's a family-owned business or a woman-owned business or minority-owned business. You definitely want to include the company background and how it got started. Now, if your drivers are completing any certifications, you definitely want to include that about the staff qualifications as well, because that's going to sell your business, upsell your business against the competitors once they see how qualified they are and the things they had to do to become an employee with your company. Now, of course, there are other things that you can include into your marketing binder, but what I just named are some of the must-haves for your marketing binder. Consider the marketing binder your elevator pitch, okay? So you don't have that much time to sell your business, so you have to go over everything verbally, then that may get a little redundant. If you have something that while you're speaking to the person in charge, they can follow along as a guide, that's an upsell point. So make sure you always have your marketing binder up to date. Now, when it comes to contacting facilities directly, there are a few things that you want to check for before you start calling. Number one, you want to make sure you do some research on an area or a county that you are interested in servicing. This is important because you want to make sure you zone in on the facilities that that area or county has that may need your services. Depending on what state you are in, you can live in a very large state, you can live in a small state, it just depends. But if you are in a large state, imagine just randomly calling and randomly going to different facilities and you're not doing your research. So you definitely want to do some background on the areas and the zoning and the facilities that you're interested in selling your business to. Now, once you have compiled a list of places that includes the phone numbers and the locations, please do not do this. Do not just go out and put your flyers on the walls or on the doors of residents' homes, because that is the fastest way to turn a company off from your business. Essentially, it's soliciting, and a lot of places do not allow that. So you can tarnish your name for your business and reputation before you even get your foot in the door to get some business. Also, too, is really working harder versus smarter, because you have to print the flyers off, you have to purchase the paper, purchase the ink, and all of those things cost. Whereas if you zone in and you are more strategic in your plan, you reap the benefits better. So once you have compiled that list, you want to make sure that you reach out to that facility or property directly via phone first. Emails could be sent, but it's easy to overlook an email versus actually having someone directly on the phone with you to ask a few questions before making the next move. When reaching out to the facilities over the phone, you want to try to get the person in charge on the line. This is typically an executive director, a property manager, or something of that sort. It really just depends on the facility type that you're going after at that time. So there are 4 main questions that you want to typically ask during the cold calling process. Now, these don't have to be asked in any particular order, but you definitely want to make sure you're getting this information during your cold calls. Number one, does the facility compensate for their patients or their residents' transportation, or are the patients or residents, are they responsible for their own transportation service? Number two, is the population or demographic, rather, more so Medicaid, Medicare patients and residents, or are they more so private pay? How is the facility set up? This question is very important because typically if you live in a broker state or whatever kind of state you live in, broker state, non-broker state, typically if there are a lot of Medicaid or Medicare patients that live at this facility, then they're going to go through their insurance for their services. So if you are in a broker state, then you may not be able to bill them directly for their transportation services. It just depends, but that question is very important to ask. All right, number three, you want to know if that location is searching for a transportation provider at that time. They may provide the transportation for their patients or their residents. They may already have a vendor that they're using. We don't know, but that's something that you want to find out. And then the final question of the four, I actually mentioned it in the last answer, but does this facility provide transportation for the patients or the residents that they serve? Because if they do, then that's okay, but you want to also ask, what is the level of transportation that they offer? They may only offer ambulatory transportation for their patients or residents, and they may need a wheelchair provider or someone who can do stretcher as well. So ask that as a follow-up question if they say, yes, we do offer transportation. You want to know. Now, of course, there are more questions to ask, but in a quick cold call, because you do have staff on the line who essentially has to do their job, you don't want to tie someone up on the phone for an extensive amount of time, but those are the four questions that I deem as being very essential. And again, these are questions that you need to get answers to that you're not going to get the answer to by putting flyers on the door and just waiting for someone to call you, or by sending an email and hoping that someone read it. So you have to be a little bit more aggressive in your tactics and making sure that you're strategic in your methods as well. Now, in order to set up the meeting or set up the presentation, you have to do the cold call, right? It's a must. During your cold call, you definitely want to try to get the person in charge on the line. As I previously mentioned, that's going to be an executive director or property manager, or, you know, someone that falls under those management skills. It just depends on the facility type that you're going after at that time. If you do get the front desk person or the admin person on the line, and, you know, the person in charge is not available to come to the line, or they're not in for the day, or they may be in a meeting, then you can also ask that individual the questions that I stated. But you also want to capture the contact information, the direct contact information for the person in charge before you get the admin person off the line. And also too, ask when is a good time to call back to speak to the person in charge. They may be out for lunch, they may be at a quick meeting, you never know. But you definitely want to ask some more questions before you just get that person off the phone. If the person in charge is available, then you want to reintroduce yourself and state the purpose of your call. You want to explain the service levels that your company offers. You also want to explain why you're contacting the property, whether that's to expand your portfolio, whether that's expanding your territory. Ultimately, the goal is to secure an in-person meeting or presentation. All right, that's going to cut it for this part of the series. Next part is going to be part 2, and that's going to discuss how to prepare for the presentation or the meeting. We're going to discuss how you differentiate which one you're going to do and how you secure the contract. So make sure you check out part 2. Thank you for checking out part 1. See you soon. Bye.